Last week, I had a consultation with a new patient who has iron overload. As I have often spoke about health concerns linked with the lack of iron or anemia, I thought I would take this opportunity to focus on the other end of the spectrum, iron overload. You're listening to Menopausenaturalsolutions. This is episode 169, Iron Overload in Menopause. Welcome to Menopausenaturalsolutions, your podcast for all things perimenopause, menopause and beyond. Stay tuned as your host, Naturopath Jennifer Harrington, explains how to use natural therapies to find your ultimate health and happiness during your transition. Hi, I'm your podcast host, Jen. And I want you to know how much I appreciate your company. I spend the vast majority of my time in private consultations. I just love my work. I find it challenging and rewarding, and I really feel privileged to be able to work with the women that I do. I see my podcast as a kind of public service, a way to educate and inform women about their health and their menopausal transition. But know that if you need a more personalised approach, I am available for consultations to personally guide and support you. Most women will struggle with iron at some point during their lifetime. I know I have. But there are two tails when it comes to iron, and just like Goldilocks, you want it just right, not too low or too high. The only way to know how much iron you are storing is to test. Just a heads up, if you ask your doctor for an iron test, they may not test for ferritin. In regards to today's conversation, we are discussing the amount of stored iron in your body. This is ferritin. Make sure to confirm your doctor has added ferritin to your request form, as many women only find out about iron overload by accident when investigating something else. I feel it's something all women should have in their annual medical checkup. The range for ferritin varies from lab to lab and country to country. On average, across the board, the reference range is usually below 150 ng/ml. But for me, I'm looking for optimal levels, not common levels, and anything in the triple digits worries me. Iron overload can be an inherited condition or an acquired condition. It used to be something that concerned me for postmenopausal women, as they were no longer menstruating and no longer had the opportunity to dump excess iron with their menses. But these days, with modern contraceptives stopping menstruation altogether, I'm seeing it in younger and younger women. When looking at the cause of elevated iron, it's worth knowing that iron can be absorbed via your digestive system, your lungs, and your skin. Yes, it's important to look at your diet and your method of cooking, such as cast iron cookware, but it's also worth considering your air quality and what you are putting on your skin. Our lifestyle can also enhance iron storage, with consuming alcoholic beverages, smoking, and being inactive, increasing your risk of developing toxic iron levels. Your body removes excess iron from your blood and stores it in your organs. This is why a serum iron test is not an indication of how much iron you actually have in your body. Iron can store anywhere, but it has a preference for your liver, bones, and brain. Next in line would probably be your spleen, pancreas, thyroid, heart, and pituitary gland. Physical signs of iron overload include digestive discomfort, irregular heartbeat, blood sugar issues, skin pigmentation, depression, fatigue, lack of motivation, lack of focus, and other cognitive issues, plus bone density issues, arthritis, and musculoskeletal pains in general. Did you know high iron also impacts on your hormones? Excess ferritin is associated with increased levels of sex hormone binding globulin. This binding globulin's role is to bind to hormones, to prevent them from being able to attach to hormone receptors, dampening the hormonal response. One study called Iron and Menopause found a direct correlation between elevated ferritin levels and postmenopausal hot flushes. This was an observation taken from the women involved in the SWAN study. They called for further research directly looking at the role of iron as a risk factor in the development of menopause-related issues. If you discover elevated ferritin, you need to consider these 4 factors, and I highly recommend you find yourself an experienced practitioner to guide you through these considerations. Number 1, ruling out other reasons why you have elevated ferritin. For example, infections, inflammation, malignancy, liver disease, or metabolic disease. 2, further investigations to see if the excess iron is damaging other parts of your body, such as your liver or your bones. 3, identifying where the excess iron is coming from. For example, is it in your food or in your water? Is there air pollution? 4, consider how to facilitate the lowering and removal of iron from your body. My consultation last week wasn't the first time I've seen a woman who had discovered elevated ferritin, but done nothing apart from monitor it. In case of ferritin, I like to be proactive, as it's likely to keep rising over time. You want to optimize your iron levels sooner rather than later, to help prevent the possibility of iron-related damage to multiple organ systems. And you really want to retest along the way to check what you are doing is working for you. And if you would like to learn more about iron, you may like to go back and listen to episode 68, Iron and the Menopausal Transition. If you need a hand optimizing your iron levels, feel free to book a consultation. That's it from me this week. Until next time, bye for now. Thank you for listening to Menopause Natural Solutions. This podcast contains general information about menopause. It is provided as a guide, and it is not intended to replace medical advice. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend.